everybody. I'm Jimmy with the Triple C Collective, and today we've got a special episode about the Academy Awards Oscars 2025. And joining me is my special guest co-host.
I'm Becky Randall, a self-proclaimed movie aficionado, by no means an expert, but just for the love of movies.
And that's kind of where our friendship started, back in high school, working at the local video store with you, not with you, with your sister, Jody, shout out Jody. But like our other friends, Lisa and Tony, they're married now. AJ, who lives out in Cali and whatnot, like you guys used to always come in, hang out. We'd always talk movies and whatnot. And I have, for the show here, for the channel, I've been wanting to dive into like just talking about the awards. And one thing I remember last year, I like briefly reached out to you being like, hey, let's do an Academy Award podcast. And then you never heard from me again until until like a couple of weeks ago. Because I'm a terrible person and I'm bad at following up sometimes.
We're all
but
busy.
But I meant it because one of the things that I caught was that you were also talking about people's dresses and stuff, and like who was looking like really good or who had like a crazy dress and stuff. And that is something also that I've wanted to talk about for like award shows and stuff. But like I needed a partner to talk to go back and forth with. I can't just be talking to a screen being like, this dress is great, right? You need that back and forth. So then I think a couple of weeks ago we ended up getting together for a mutual like hangout thing, and we were talking more about movies. And I had been seeing you always post on like your stories on like whatever social media and stuff, being like, I saw this movie, and I'm always like, okay, noted. Is that it? Okay, I need to see this. No, I don't need to see this. And one of the things we talked about is the Oscars this year, and I was like, all right, we're doing it. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna talk about the Oscars. We're gonna talk about award season. So for starters, where does your love, like, have you always loved watching the Oscars on Oscar night? Or because that's what this shirt is. Everybody's looking for the same man is actually my Oscars shirt.
I love that.
I got this in Chicago. But we'll dive into that in a little bit. Tell me about your Oscar love.
Yeah, so I mean, me and my sister, I think we just grew up loving movies. Our mom never really censored us. So even at young ages, we were able to watch basically whatever we wanted. And one of my favorite pastimes, I think, is going to the video store, whether it be Video Playground where she worked or Blockbuster. And we would just select any random movie that we thought looked good. So I think that's kind of where the love grew. And ever since then, award season has always been like our jam. Like me and my sister will always be live connecting, talking about all the outfits, the winners, the nominees, things like that. So her and I both love to share all of that over Instagram, and we've gotten lots of love. And I think that's kind of how we reconnected as well. So
Movies bring people together.
too.
But yeah, so like I just like somewhere in high school when maybe right before I started working at the video store, like my buddy Matt, he was like, when we first became friends, like sophomore year, like freshman year of high school, he was like, so you like movies? And it was the definition of like the first taste is free, and like from then on it just opened up the floodgates, because somebody finally told me that it was like, no, it's cool to like dive into these things about like what makes some things work. Like, do you like this performance? Do you not like this performance? Is that script even good? Or like what makes a good script too? And like just kind of asking these questions about like what makes it good. Like just taking something more than just that face level of being like, I like those explosions. I just like that actor or that actress. So, like sign me up. I've got season tickets for them. And so from then on, like the Oscars have just become like a Super Bowl for me. It like there's no difference. I love watching the Super Bowl because I can also just turn my mind off and just watch sports. But like movies, I critique them. I dive into them. I love talking about them. I fancy myself an independent filmmaker. So I know a little bit how the sauce is made. So I love seeing what makes it. And I also love, maybe it's a little weird thing of mine, but I also love guessing at who's gonna win, who's not gonna win. Am I right? Because I just like to see where my gauge is. If like I'm connecting to the same things that other people are, or there's something maybe I'm missing
Yep.
because like for an example, we can dive into a little bit of Amelia Perez right here.
Mhm.
Like Amelia Perez, up until we like talked, until we talked about doing this pod, off my radar. Any of the controversy, even before like the tweets that have gone on now or whatever, even just the controversial topic of like some scenes, is it good, is it not good? Some people hating some performances and not, like all of that was just lost. It was just not on my radar. And then you were like, check it out. Let me know
It
what you think.
it truly was not on my radar either until I stumbled across a trailer for it, and
Okay.
a little shocked because I think um they didn't market it as if it was a musical.
Okay.
Think the context kind of at first, if they did market as a musical, people would be like, how in the hell are they going to make that into a musical? So I was extremely intrigued, but I went into it with absolutely zero expectations because I genuinely did not think I was going to like it. But I
Mm-hmm.
walked away very surprised. I actually did enjoy the film, but I was very excited to kind of go into it a little bit deeper with you because obviously it was not perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would kind of love to dig deeper into each of the individual performances. Like, what songs did you like? Did you not like? Stuff like
So I will say there are basically four things that like throughout the whole movie that I really like. The number one thing for any of the controversy or whatever, there is no question that Zoe Zaldana is giving a performance of a lifetime throughout it. Like talking about Oscar noms, like like this is actually something that I found interesting. Now it's kind of a mute point because both Sophia and Zoe got nominated for respective Oscars. I personally think Zoe should have been in the lead and Sophia should have been nominated in supporting, but it's a mute point because they're both getting, either way you look at it, that nomination for them is deserved.
yeah.
But like there's no I don't know. I just thought Zoe was like literally kind of dancing and singing circles around everybody in that cast.
I would agree with that. I think she's such a triple threat. Like now we can see, like we've seen her in center stage, for example, so we know she can dance. We've seen her in things like Avatar, so we know she can act. And now she's singing. And it's an international film, so she was able to sing and speak in Spanish, which I thought was kind of great. And I've been watching interviews with her, and at first she said she was a little nervous to accept the role, but she said there was something inside of her that felt like she had to do it. And I think it absolutely paid off despite some of the controversy that's going on. So I hope that a lot of what's going on with Carla Sofia doesn't affect how people see her performance in the movie, because I personally thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. And like I am definitely of the type and the mindset that like if you're going to critique something, if you're going to watch something, like whatever is on the outside like of other critics and stuff, even ourselves here, like watch it for yourself and make your own opinion of it. Like you can go and like really the only baggage I had going into it was you like check it out. Let me know what you think.
Mhm.
And so with that, Zoe Saldana,
Yeah.
it like incredible. That opening number, I don't know what the name of it is, but when she's stomping on the street and stuff, like I was like, oh, I'm in for like a grimy, dirty kind of like musical, like
Hmm.
of the streets, kind of is like what you kind of is what you get in that number.
Yep.
But then it widely goes the opposite, like a completely opposite way, like shortly thereafter, which is fine. Like musicals go all over the place, but one thing that kind of held it back from me was the complete musical changes
Right.
of like swings of like it was like a whiplash almost.
Mhm.
And I can only compare it to like what I just watched this morning in Wicked, where like those musical transitions from just the talkie to then the singing and the dancing and the all over the production, it's just so smooth.
Mhm.
Like I like it because each time a musical number happened in Wicked, I was like, oh, we're singing now. Like I wasn't even guessing, but it was like, oh, we stopped and then we're doing this. However, with that said, one of my favorite scenes that they do that in is where they're actually talking and then they get silhouetted and it's the reveal, I'll just say.
Mhm.
The reveal of Amelia. And um and when that scene is electric, I
Mhm.
think the back and forth, and then finally you get the bingo. And
Mhm.
like I was just like, oh my god, it really is great. It like
Yeah.
impeccable, impeccable. Another number which is nominated for best original song, the El Mal song, which is like when they're sitting with all the government people and the gangsters and stuff. Like, if you need to see a scene that like exemplifies why Zoe deserves her Oscar nom, just watch that there. Like that, like if that's all you do, like that's enough for you to be like, oh yeah, she deserves that. And that song's incredible. It
I
is
absolutely agree.
getting up on those tables and stuff. Like, what for you now, what are some of the things that you really liked about it, about this movie, or even some of the things that like that challenged me? Like, if there's something I said that you're like, well, maybe not.
For the most part, I absolutely agree with you. In general, I applaud the writer and director. I believe the director wrote it as well,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. I just applaud the original context, the storyline in general. I personally don't think the world is ready for a strong trans female protagonist, and maybe that might have to do a little bit with some of the controversy it's receiving prior to finding out the things that she tweeted.
yes,
That's inexcusable. I watched the movie and critiqued it before I knew any of that. So these opinions are kind of prior to what I had found out after the fact.
same.
Um, some of the musical numbers really slapped, like the El Mal. That scene
Hmm.
alone, I think, is probably what is grabbing all of the attention and the nominations. But then some of the other songs, like I don't even know what it's called, the Doctor song. I was like, this
Oh,
is just way too much. I know it's receiving a lot of negative critiques from the trans community. And then also the Selena Gomez's solo just didn't really hit either. I think it was kind of an awkward performance.
hmm,
But in general, I was extremely entertained by it. I think the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. The storyline was really emotional. The scene between Selena and Carla when they are fighting over the kids,
yeah,
but she
that
can't
that's powerful.
reveal that she's their biological father.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of what solidified the performance for me. I thought that was very, very emotional. And I think that's probably one of my favorite things about movies is when you can feel the character's emotion.
yep.
I think that's what really sells it for me. And that's what I enjoyed about it.
Absolutely. That's very true. That's actually that's a good point. That is a very good scene for Sophia and for Selena, because one question I have about Selena, aside from that scene right there that we just discussed,
Mhm.
is the my biggest confusion with her performance is why she like speaks only half Spanish in it. And like, because there's one line that is kind of brought up again, that like she has a sister in America, but
Mhm.
did I miss something in the movie? Is she from America too? I thought she was like from Mexico, like like how most of everybody else is in that movie, you know?
I think
Um,
it's more so insinuated and confirmed by Selena in interviews that, and it probably wasn't made clear in the movie that she was born and raised in America. And I think
okay.
her husband is who brought her to Mexico.
That's fair. Okay,
I
okay.
believe that's what she confirmed in an interview, but it obviously didn't come through in the
Yeah, because you only get the hint that she has a sister in America that she talks about a couple of times throughout it. And so like that was always something that I was like, I didn't understand it. And so yeah, if that's the point, then yeah, that is something that they needed to clear up
Yep.
for me. But otherwise, like, I didn't hate her performance, but I was confused at that like Spanglish, half Spanish,
Mhm.
English speaking that she was doing. um Her performance in the bed was like fine, like that song and whatnot, yeah, that was fine. But yeah, that end scene with her and Sophia and
Yeah.
talking about the kids and stuff, that is powerful. That is a good scene. That is something I left off. I'm trying to think. And then overall for Amelia Perez, like Sophia does give a good performance. And like I said, I think she rightfully deserves an Oscar nom. I kind of would have thought, just watching the movie, that she wasn't actually the lead. I thought Zoe was. So like again,
I was a little surprised by that as well. Because I mean, she's also in all of the marketing material. Like she's on the movie poster. So I was a
yeah,
little bit confused by that. I will say it's a huge step in the right direction for representation, though. So
Right.
I'm very happy about that. I do think people criticize it a little too harshly. There's like things floating around on social media of people making fun of it who haven't even seen it. So
Yeah,
I'm just
that's bad.
like, don't feed into that information. Watch it yourself, develop your own opinion. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, I'll agree with you on both sides. Because do I think it'll win like Best Picture? I hope not. I don't think it deserves it.
Right.
Because I feel strongly about another movie, which I'm sure we'll get into as well. So,
Excellent. Because yeah, you know what? Like talking about representation, specifically for let's just keep it at actress,
mhm.
there has been one black female winner, and that was Halle Berry
Halle
in
Berry, yeah.
2001.
Mhm.
There have been 10 total, including Halle Berry, to win an Oscar, but it's all been in supporting.
Mhm.
With the first one being what's her name from Gone with the Wind? She was in there, Haiti McDonald. And so she was the first one back in 1940, right?
Wow.
That's yeah, 1940. And then Whoopi Goldberg is the next one for Ghost in 1991. It's 50, 51 years later though. So
In-
like, I mean, yeah, yeah. So that's why it's like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think Sophia was more of a supporting character, but like for representation, like I want her, like her performance needed to be there, whether it was in supporting or whether it was in lead. I think it's a again echoing what you said. It is a right step because we don't have much representation in lead actress over the years. Like we all love Meryl Streep, but that woman's got like literally 20 noms with like 8 different Oscars or something. Maybe not
Mouth
that many.
turn. It's like I get it, but also
Great. Let's
yeah,
spread the love. Let's spread the love.
yeah.
Um, but so as we've been talking about lead actress, I think then this is a good time to talk about people who got snubbed.
Mhm.
And one of them, like a movie I haven't seen yet, but I really wanted to, and I was so excited when you were like, oh yeah, me and Sierra got to see The Last Showgirl because I like everything that Pam Anderson is doing to try and like retake her life after like everything from the scandals of the 90s and everything like that, which like none of that is her fault. That is all messed up. Like I get it, like I even get where she was pissed at Seth Rogen for making the Pam and Tommy series for Hulu
Yeah,
because
she
that's
asked
like
them
her
not to
life
make it,
that
and they
she didn't
still
sign off on,
yeah.
uh like
You watch
her
it?
doing yeah
I
that's
watched it. I feel icky watching it, but I watched it.
I did not watch it because I was so torn on it. But I also didn't have time when it was released. Now I may have more time, maybe, I don't know. But I did miss it because I actually didn't like the woman that they cast as Pam Anderson. I didn't think she was necessarily the right for it, maybe.
Absolutely
But
fantastic.
it's been a little bit since I like looked at anything for that.
I personally thought she was absolutely fantastic, but as a woman, and if I knew Pam asked them not to make it, I don't think I would accept the role. So that was a little icky for me. But in coming back to, her recent successes, I think I'm so glad that her son got involved because she kind of like went away and lived on this little like island at like a
Yeah,
family home. She's like, I kind of just here. But her son got involved and was like, no, you were done dirty. Like, let's get your real story out there. And I just love this comeback for her. Do I personally think she's an amazing actress? No. We all watched Baywatch. It was one of my favorite shows as a kid, and she was one of my favorite actresses on the show. I think she did absolutely beautifully in the movie. She had a couple of very strong scenes. Um, but especially with the Oscars only having 5 nominees, I wasn't totally shocked that she wasn't nominated.
right. And you know, one of the things though, to be fair, she got nominated at the Globes, which is something that the Globes does do. Like they will give like a nom to somebody who's kind of on the fence because that's kind of a lot of what I've heard is that like she is good. There's no
Yeah.
definition that she's not like she's not bad in The Last
Right.
Showgirl, but like does she elevate it past to get a nomination? That's where it's like kind of shaky for some people.
I personally think
Um
she was a little one note.
okay.
Um, I
How
love
was
her. I hate saying that. But like I said, there were a couple of scenes that were very strong. There was one scene that brought me to tears. So I was like, I thought it was a beautiful movie, especially if we're like again touching base on all these trends and topics, and it hits on as being a woman myself. I love how they're starting to make movies about the female experience from a female lens and
Hmm.
kind of struggles that we deal with on a regular basis. So it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful movie.
And like, it's from is it Gina Coppola who directed that?
Think so? Yes.
So like that's great. I've been a huge fan of Sofia Coppola's like directing career forever. So the fact that like I would assume it could be her sister, it could be her cousin for all I know. I mean, Nick Cage is like related to them too. So like I think even Jason Schwartzman is like a cousin in there or something.
He makes a cameo in the movie.
That's why he's family. I'd like no joke. He's related. He's a cousin or something. But it's crazy that like this family continues to put out like great filmmakers to varying degrees. Whether I mean I didn't see Megalopolis this year. I know it was like considered a flop for a lot of people. I just didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. I'm always interested in Francis Ford Coppola is one of the greatest filmmakers ever. Like he's always going to make something and it's always going to be weird, but it's always usually worth watching at some point. But I don't know. His late wife did the documentary Heart of Darkness, which is about the making of oh my god, what's that Vietnam movie that he did? Apocalypse Now. There we go. And it's about that, and it's like literally him losing his mind in the middle of the jungle in like real time, and she's just like, "Yep, another day." Uh, it's a fascinating documentary. It like it's truly great, and like she saved all of her notes and stuff from that. Um, but somebody that we both agree were kind of shocked that she maybe didn't get a nomination here is Nicole Kidman
Yes. Yeah.
for Baby Girl, and that was a movie that I loved. I really did. I thought she was great in it. I can't believe Antonio Banderas is that bad at sex at all. Like I just
Okay,
can't
let's
believe.
talk about that because genuinely, I don't think it's necessarily that he was bad at sex. I think it kind of like sh touches on the importance of communication in relationships.
Yes,
And I
and
think that's what made this movie beautiful because I went into it thinking that it was gonna be like the smuttiest smut fest, and it wasn't. There
no,
are some very sexual scenes,
for
but
sure.
it's more so talking about like her needs and her desires and the shame around it. So,
Mhm.
I thought it was beautifully done. Wasn't my favorite movie? No, but I did enjoy it.
I yeah, like it. This movie was definitely like marketed as like a comeback of the erotic thriller and stuff, and for sure it's erotic. There's no question about it, but it's definitely not smutty. It
Mhm.
is very elegant. There's a lot of high class filmmaking to it, which I loved. I really did love it. I like Nicole Kidman is great. Harris Dickinson, who I've never seen before in anything, he's fantastic. I'm really excited to see like what he does. I was shocked that she was not nominated. That Nicole Kidman didn't get one there. But at the same time, like if I'm looking at the other ones, it's like I don't want to take off Sophia for lead. I don't want to take off Mikey Madsen. She absolutely deserves to be there. So I haven't seen The Substance yet with Demi Moore, but everyone just loves her in it. And I can't expect it to be bad. I don't expect it to be bad. My copy of it gets delivered like later this week or whatever. So then I'll be able to watch it and like dive in a little bit more. And it's like I know it's a body horror thing too. Like this is it's the stuff that I love. It's the stuff that I love.
I
And
can't wait for
so
you.
hold on, where's my little note here? Who else is in the lead actress? Oh, Cynthia
Very
Erivo.
well.
She is great in Wicked. I don't want to take that away from her. And the only other one then that I haven't seen is I'm Still Here, which I'm seeing on Sunday.
Okay, please let me know how that is. Because,
Yes,
yeah, unfortunately, I've kind of been at the liberty of movies that are streaming or like more affordable to rent. Some of the movies haven't even been playing at theaters in the city, only in the
right.
suburbs. So there's a lot that I haven't seen yet. But yes, please let me know how that is because
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it because it's in there for international feature from Brazil. She's nominated for actress, and it's got a couple more. It might even have a screenplay, maybe. Um, but there's a couple of really great things there, so I'm excited to see that. But and she won the Golden Globe too, I believe, for because I believe that was underneath comedy or musical, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I
Or did
or
she
was
win
it
for
that?
drama and then Demi Moore won for comedy and musical
Yes.
because they consider The Substance like a dark comedy that way? I mean, I
It's there's
get,
comedic relief in it for sure.
yeah.
So I mean, I guess I just they need to just add horror. They just need to add horror. Like,
I mean, like Silence of the Lambs
mhm.
literally won the big five, was the last one to do it: picture, director, actor, actress, and screenplay. Get Out, Jordan Peele's debut, 2017.
Yep.
2010 was the last like other kind of horror flick with Black Swan, where
Mhm.
Natalie Portman wins her Oscar, opposite Mila Kunis. And then we've got The Substance this year, basically. So genre, as they call it, the genre films, the horror, and like even Return of the King, though, in like the fantasy kind of realm, like that stuff doesn't usually get recognized. It's just like we'll push you over to the visual effects, which, let me say, Alien Romulus getting nominated for best visual effect is like, I love it so much. That movie is in my like top 12 favorite movies of the year, and it's just because I love the Alien franchise so much. Like that, those first two Alien movies mean so much to me. They're just so great on like horror, setting up sound, what it means to use like practical effects, but also have like beautiful visuals and like the backgrounds and stuff. It's also a time when they're still doing like paint, like matted paintings as backgrounds to like just like give it. I love it.
Yes. I mean, I did not see Alien Romulus. I mean, circling back to when I said my mom never censored us, I saw Alien as a very small child. I think it might have been the second one though, where the alien like breaks out of the person's like stomach. Was it?
That's in
Was
the
it
first one too.
the
I mean,
first
it
one?
happens in all of them. It's kind of an iconic scene.
But
But
it scared the
there's
shit out of me. So I never continued on the Alien bandwagon. But it's really, really cool that it has withstood the test of time.
Yeah, and Alien Romulus is great. Like if you're a fan of that franchise, like it's well worth it. Even if you like this one's kind of different. It's a nice little mash of actually the first. It's very much so honoring the Ridley Scott's first Alien and James Cameron's Aliens, which has like one of the funniest stories behind it. I'll tell this really quickly and we'll move on. But when James Cameron was pitching Aliens to Fox, he put an S and a dollar sign on there, and he was like, "Aliens means money." That was his pitch to Fox to let him like do it.
Oh.
He's like aliens, money, and it's like, oh my god, you're James Cameron. How can you do this? Um, so talking about, let's flip back here a little bit to some snubs. The only other one that I kind of really thought of for like an acting one was Daniel Craig's Queer from Luca Guadagnino. That that has been a controversial movie all in itself too. But everyone was still praising Daniel Craig. So like, and I think he also was nominated again for the Golden Globe as well. In that Challengers left out on everything.
You know,
Um,
Challengers wasn't my favorite movie. I think that's a hot take. I think a lot of people loved it, but for some reason I don't know. I just think it kind of lacked substance. I was shocked that it wasn't at least nominated for score because
mhm.
it kept me on the edge of my seat, like the
Yeah.
music alone. Um, I mean, but obviously Zendaya's amazing.
What
So,
about Josh O'Connor? That seems to be a little bit of the hot take of like he should have been. If anyone was gonna like, Zendaya is always amazing. We know that. Challenger's great. Again, probably falls a little bit in that Pam Anderson realm of like really great, strong performance. When placed up against others, kind of on that edge, maybe, and then kind of falls off. But Josh O'Connor, he seems to be the one that like people are like kind of surprised he wasn't here.
mhm.
And I kind of am too. I thought he in particular is really good in that
Yeah.
movie. So like performance wise, if anyone was going to get it, I would have expected him. But
Mhm.
Trent Reznor, I think it's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross who do that score for Challengers. they at least made the short list of like the final 10 or 15 nominees. But yeah, them not being there in the final five was a little shocking. But at the same time, spread the wealth. They have two wins together already.
Yeah.
And they get nominated a lot. I mean, they do a lot of beautiful scores. They're very active now. But they won the Social Network. They won even I think Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It was nominated if it didn't win, and they even won for Pixar's Soul. They did
Really?
the yeah they did the score for that, which is something that I love about animated films getting taken a little bit more seriously recently. We can dive into that in some like when we get to shocks. I got one more snub I want to talk about. Or do you have anything about challengers? Anything else you want to say about challengers or any other snubs you think?
No one's been talking about it, but Jesse Eisenberg, like everyone's talking about Kieran Culkin, but Jesse Eisenberg, like I can't even put it into words. It's speechless. The scene, not to give it any spoilers, but hopefully people have seen it already. The scene with his monologue in the restaurant where he's talking about his complicated relationship with his cousin floored me.
It's
Floored.
great.
So the fact that he wasn't nominated for his individual performance, I think I would really love to see him win for the screenplay, but we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good script. It
Yeah.
is. Like A Real Pain, we can talk about it a little bit here. A Real Pain's great. There's also like the speculation out on the web that there's a little bit of category fraud here with Kieran and Culkin. That it's
Okay.
actually a co-lead between Jesse Eisenberg and him, and there's an argument to be had there. Like I'm not I appreciate him. I Kieran Culkin, like his character, like when he talks about spending all of his time with his grandma and visiting her every week, like once a week for like years or whatever. The literal like last 10 years of my grandparents being alive, I was there every Sunday to clear the snow, cut their grass, and have a couple of cups of coffee with them, and I did that for years, and it is like some of the most special memories I have. Um, and I like that. Like Kieran Culkin, like literally destroys me, and it like throughout his whole performance, there's just so much of like me in that character that like. Actually, if I'm being honest, the those two are me. Those
Yeah.
are my two halves.
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin one side and Jesse Eisenberg in the other side. Like if you want to know what makes me up, it's those. It's
Yeah.
that. Those are my two halves. And I was just knocked out. I was just knocked out by both of them. But that dinner scene,
Uh,
that dinner scene monologue of like all of that anxiety and tension that is like being let out and stuff in there is like phenomenal. And you're right. That again, if I think if Jesse Eisenberg really wanted to be nominated, like he could have like submitted himself. I think he being the like creative artist that he is, I think he likes the idea of now being nominated for his work, for his written work, not just his performances, but getting this Oscar nom for original screenplay. I've got a feeling probably means a little bit more to him now, maybe, than what like when he got nominated for playing Mark Zuckerberg in like
yeah.
15 years ago for
He
the
started to
Social
speak out
Network.
about that, which I'm very happy about.
What?
He's
Oh,
starting to speak out about that, how he doesn't want to be known for that role.
yeah,
I think
and it
specifically
sucks.
because of all the politics that's happening, but I was like, no, you make a very good point. Now he's being recognized for the work that went into, creating the movie. So that's a
Mhm.
good point.
And so I think, and I don't know Jesse Eisenberg. I don't got his line. So like, I don't know. This is all like what you hear from other creatives. It's like who have something. It's like Ben Stiller talks about it. He makes the joke of it in Tropic Thunder of being like, hey, just being nominated would be cool. Like,
Mhm.
I don't need to win. Just having my stuff like being nominated is like enough of like recognition of like my peers and stuff that everyone kind of wants. And then we're talking about representation and spreading that wealth out, making sure everyone who kind of deserves their like accolades get it instead of giving like a posthumous after somebody dies at, like, not even talking like Heath Ledger, who died tragically young and early, but I'm talking about like people who get the lifetime Oscar when they die at 85, and then like 3 years later we're like, hey, you know what, we should have given them an Oscar, so here's their lifetime achievement one. Like, no, recognize these people now
Yeah.
while they're alive giving these great performances and stuff. um
I
so
do
that
love
would
that you bring up the recognition of it though, because only one person can win. And I think recognition in general is a huge honor. Like when people freaked out about Leo like never winning, I was like, settle down. And then he finally won for something I didn't even think he deserved. So it was kind of
no
like snore, like,
happens
oh, you know?
that happens all the time. It's like, for me, I think in '06, Leo should have done the opposite. Blood Diamond was mediocre in my mind, but Departed is like, that movie just rocks. I just love that movie so much. So like, again, that's one of those things that I think he should have won for that. There's also a plethora of other roles that he's done that he also could have been nominated for. I agree though. Rever the Revenant is like a mid movie of his. Like I like the movie,
Stole
I
that
do,
movie. Tom
but
Hardy
like,
stole that movie, okay? Like, oh, Leo
agree.
was so great because he ate a real heart. Okay, that's not acting. That's just weird. Like,
So
Tom Hardy
great.
transformed himself for that role and
Yeah,
he deserved the supporting. I don't know who won this. Oh, was it what's his face in Dallas Buyers Club? Who won the supporting that year? Jared
Jared
Leto.
Leto. Yeah,
Oh, that's tough.
yeah.
That's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's also the year that Jared Leto makes the joke about the Meryl Streep nominations too. In his acceptance speech, he's like, "I'm so happy to win and like be all these other nominees here, and like, Meryl with accordance to like California law X Y." Like, you just make something up on the spot or whatever, but he's like, "You get another nomination." Maybe it was the following year when he was announcing winners, but like either way, that like lives rent free in my mind. Like that speech that he gave about it, because it's so funny because he's being a little tongue in cheek, but like he's also kind of right. Like what we've been talking about, spread that wealth, get more representation in there. And so aside from Jesse Eisenberg, you did have one other note in a director.
Yeah. John Chu for Wicked. I absolutely think he was snubbed. I think the direction quite possibly is what made that movie what it was. And he also just won the Critics' Choice.
He did.
So
I
I was a little,
so I liked it. I did like Wicked.
mhm.
Um, the I'm I don't know who I would bump from director though, because Sean Baker I want there. Oh, I mean, I guess if we wanted to take an award nomination away from Emilia Perez, I'd be good substituting that director out and putting John Chu in. But I think the Academy did the opposite there. I think they were only going to give one musical nomination, because you also have James Mangold here, who does A Complete Unknown, which I just saw on Tuesday, which is very good. James Mangold does a great job directing it. But you could switch John Chu in there too. I don't want to take anything away from James Mangold. He is one of my favorite directors. And he just has he has a really great way of making those like musical kind of these music based movies on figures. Like Walk the Line, incredible, one of my favorite movies of all time. I like Johnny Cash more as an artist than I do Bob Dylan, so I might just be biased in like A Complete Unknown, of where I was like, I liked it. Like Timothée Chalamet, he
Hey, that's where my bias is. I'm so over him, it's not even funny. I think he's a fantastic actor. I absolutely loved him in Little Women, but now I just think he's kind of a mini Leo where he's Oscar chasing. And
oh,
it's amazing to me. That's probably a hot take. I don't think a lot of people, especially women, would agree with me on that. But he's kind of just like this little annoying person for me, like his annoying little mustache. And now I'm just getting personal. But that's where my bias is. I'm over him. I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not going to speak about his performance in the movie. But yeah, I'm kind of also over the whole like biopic thing. We just did
mhm.
Elvis, Walk
Yeah,
the Line is also one of my favorite movies, and I absolutely loved it. So I'll probably take whatever comes next and compare it to that, and it'll probably never win in my mind.
Hmm. Yeah, and to be fair, Chalamet, he's not bad as Bob Dylan.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He's not bad. I think he deserves to be there
Mhm.
with his nomination. But like overall in the movie, like no spoilers, but like Bob Dylan was like an activist. Like he cared about things. I After watching the movie, I don't think Bob Dylan cared about anything. Like that
Bob
like they
Dylan is still alive, so it's kind of just like, okay.
Yeah. So like in the end, it seemed like it seemed like the way that they directed that movie, and again, so maybe it's a knock on James Mangold, is that like Bob Dylan didn't care, is what I kind of got from it, which was super weird,
Yeah.
because like Bob Dylan was again an activist. That's how where he started his music, and then everybody got mad with him when he went electric or whatever. But yeah, so like that was just weird.
Yeah.
So like when I left the movie, I was like he's good. I don't know if I like the directing of the script overall. So like I guess if we're gonna take somebody out, we could do possibly the Amelia Perez, but like I get musicals are tough to make. So that's why I also don't mind James Mangold there because the musical performances in that movie are incredible. Like every time somebody's picking up a guitar, getting behind a mic and like singing their little hearts out and stuff, amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. It's so well, and like I saw it in a theater, so like it was really loud, like a concert, and that I think that stuff also matters too. Like I didn't see Amelia Perez or Wicked in a theater. My wife did. Well, my wife saw Wicked in a theater, and she really loved it. She was like, "It was beautiful. I think you'll love it. Like the way it's shot and everything." And she's like, "You ruined me." I was like, "What do you mean by that?" She's like, "You make me look at movies differently now, so I think about things like editing and cinematography and all of that." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I just made your movie experience better."
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and after I watch a movie, I always love to go to YouTube and try to find like more behind the scenes information just to see all of the work that actually goes into making the production of it all, right? And Wicked is just insane. If you haven't watched any of the behind the scenes information, I highly recommend it. I think the thing with Wicked, though, is people are kind of like it's like a fantasy world, and I don't
Hmm.
really take that seriously. Like, look at Harry Potter. Like, did those movies win any awards? When I could watch those movies over and over and over and over and over again because they're
Hmm.
so amazing in my mind. But I don't think they were ever truly ever taken seriously because it's like a fantasy world.
So I'll tell you the first three are because John Williams does the score for the first three
Okay.
movies. So all three of those were nominated for Best Original Score. um, so the Harry Potter movies really live in a world of they were getting score, visual effects, sound, maybe some costuming, and maybe some production design. Because again, those early ones, they're actually like in real castles and stuff, so they're not really using like the CGI that they eventually had to go to in the later movies because all of their real life like places that they were filming at all got like surrounded by people and you couldn't keep anything secret. And now think about movie production on how everything can literally an entire movie can be out on the internet like the day somebody's like the script's here, you know.
Yep.
um and so yeah, that's interesting. John Chu not making it is an interesting snub, for sure. And oh, your other note that you made, Miss Margaret Qualley.
Yes, for the substance.
Yep, for supporting.
Yeah, she
So
arguably was in it more than Demi was. I know you have
oh.
that. Um, but not unlike what you said for A Real Pain. It's more like a duo. They worked hand in hand because I'm sure you know the storyline of
Hmm.
it. So like obviously Demi plays the older version and Margaret plays the younger version. So they split the time equally. I could see how Demi is obviously the lead actress though, because it's her ultimately her story. I do think Margaret was snubbed though. I think she was absolutely fantastic in it. Um, And it was kind of like, I know she's been in other things, but this was kind of like a huge breakout role for her, I think.
Yeah.
She's been smaller characters in other things, but this was,
Yeah, this was her first like real acclaim and like, you know, like really I don't want to say going for it because I haven't seen everything she's done, but this is by far like the highest acclaim critically and everything that she's got into, which is great. Um I love to see it, and like everyone's basically said that. And like I'm looking at my list here, I'm like, okay, actress in supporting role. We've got Monica Barbaro from A Complete Unknown. We've got Ariana Grande in Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Conclave, Isabella Rossellini from Conclave, and then Zoe Saldana in Amelia Perez. Zoe Saldana not going anywhere. Um, I would listen to Isabella Rossellini getting bounced out,
Mhm.
not because she's a bad performance, just because she's only truly in like 3 scenes in that movie.
Yep. Mhm.
However, I think, and we talked about this already too, and maybe we'll move into Conclave right after this. I think Conclave, like you said, actually, I'll let you start. Tell me what you think about Conclave.
I felt it was the most underrated movie of the year. I don't think it got as much media buzz. I mean, I think it did pretty well with the nominations. I think it was higher up on the list, but just from hearing like whisperings of other movie lovers, not a lot of people are talking about it. And so I went into it like, this is going to be so boring. I'm not religious. I don't care. But the end of that movie, I watched it at my friend's house. I flew off the couch and was like, oh my, like just clapping. It was like a religious Mean Girls, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's so great.
I enjoyed it thoroughly when I did not think I was going to like it.
Let me tell you, as a little Catholic boy, you know, I mean, like I know we went to Catholic schools and stuff, but like I was an altar server. Like I when the Pope came to like Linus or a cardinal came to Linus, I was there like as one of those altar servers and whatnot. So this movie just like on that aspect of just like knowing all of this stuff and no being being more or less a Catholic. I'm not really super religious myself anymore, but like for 36 years old, like it was a good chunk of our life for like 20 years or something easily. And so like for me, I was just blown away.
Mhm.
Like it the the way I have never been, maybe outside of this year, I've never been more interested in how an election is going to turn out than I've been in my entire life. Like no joke. It was one of those things where I was like the score for, if we're going to talk about a score, let's talk about the Conclave score because that thing is so propulsive in it that like literally my wife was, I don't know, she was doing something in the kitchen. She might have been putting something away or whatever, but she kept popping in when I was watching Conclave, and I was like, "Do you just want to sit down and watch it? Like I can pause it for like the 2 minutes that it is for whatever you're gonna finish out there to come down and sit." And she was like, "No, no, no, I can hear it. You've got it loud enough. Like I can hear it." And I was like, "Okay, okay, fine." But eventually, like I watched the opening 15 minutes of it, and then my wife just sat down right next to me and was like, "Okay, let's keep watching this." And then at the end of the movie, at the end, like she's talking about, she's a nurse, so I'll
Mhm.
say that. So everything that they were saying, like it was taking me a minute to catch on. Like I had to process all of the words that were going on, but my wife was just like, "Holy shit!"
I
Like,
flew. I flew. I
and
wish it was like recorded because my reaction was hilarious.
that is so awesome. But I mean, Conclave, no
Yeah.
no counterpoint to you. It is the most underrated movie this year.
Mhm.
It does have a lead actor, supporting actress. It has a best picture, and it has best adapted screenplay. And then I think there's a couple others. There's like production design, costume design, and score. So it might actually have like 8 nominations, which is pretty good considering Amelia Perez leads the way with 13, and then I think the next one is like 10 and 8. So like Conclave is right there in that like third tier of most nominations, I think. Um, so yeah, but like I'm mad at myself that I didn't watch this movie like way sooner because it's fantastic. It's so good.
It opened my perspective up because I truly was just gonna avoid it. I was like, I really don't want to watch a movie about religion. But I was like, okay, I love. Is it Ralph? Is it Fiennes or Fiends?
It's
Ralph.
Rafe Fiennes. Yep.
Yeah, Voldemort.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'll give it
Hold
a go.
on. Are you a Dexter fan too?
Yes. Yeah.
Trinity Killer. Spoilers for Dexter, you know, like
Yes.
the original series that's like, I don't know, 20 years old or older now. I don't know how old that
One
show
of the
is
best
now.
shows on TV, hands down.
But yeah, so that's actually what my wife said. That's what like brought her into the movie. She was like, "Is that the Trinity Killer talking?" And I was like, "You mean John Lithgow?" And she's like,
Jimmy,
"Trinity Killer."
like stacked cast, stacked cast.
Okay, the Tooch, Stanley Tucci. Sign me up for anything that man is in.
Seriously, anything he touches turns to gold, and he's so versatile. He can be in something as silly as Burlesque and Beethoven, which is a classic. To
Isn't he Emma Stone's dad in Easy A?
yes, which is arguably one of his best performances. I don't care who you are.
That
He's
movie is fantastic. 10 out
it's
of 10, no notes. I love it.
yes, his performance in that was just so natural and hilarious,
He's so
and I
good.
love him. I love
He's
him
so
so much.
good. So and actually if we're going to talk about a snub in supporting role, that there we go. That's a guy who I think should be there.
Yep.
If there's an actor, who would I take off?
I
And
think I think a a lot of the movies in that one I haven't.
oh, you know what? But like Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice is in there too.
Yeah, I didn't see The
I
Apprentice.
didn't see The Apprentice either, but I would.
I
I
honestly didn't even
mean,
know it was a thing. I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is.
it's about the early years of Donald Trump, so that's why it didn't. I mean, that movie basically bombed in America and it did mediocre internationally. But you know that's what Sebastian Stan is nominated
Hmm.
for his
Just
role, right?
odd because like he was also recognized for A Different Man at the Golden Globes, but he was not in the Oscars. So that
Yeah,
watch A Different Man?
I didn't yet, but I need to. It's one of those other. I know it's on Max now and stuff, so I'm gonna watch it. That whole movie just sounds very interesting about like the premise and everything that they've got going on and in it. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited to see how Different Man plays out, especially with the makeup and whatnot in it. I'm very big on seeing that kind of stuff. Like I loved that despite the Penguin not win or the Batman not winning like 2 years ago for best makeup for the Penguin. I excuse me, I was very excited of that nomination because Colin Farrell as the Penguin in the Batman is unrecognizable. It like I know superheroes ain't really your jam for it, but it like he is unrecognizable in that, and it's a really great
I
performance.
I did not watch The Penguin, but it's been recommended to me. And admittedly, when I first saw like the poster for it, I had no idea that was Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
So that's impressive.
yeah, and I mean everything I've seen for A Different Man also looks great. That nomination seems well deserved. So yeah, I do need to get to that. When I do actually something we haven't talked about, but we can talk about it here briefly. When I do try and get into Oscars and watching them, I usually tend to try and get the best picture down first because usually that list of 10, now it's usually 10 of best pictures are usually spread out so much throughout the rest of the like different categories that you then start covering a lot of them just by watching those 10 movies, and then it's just kind of filling in like those little random slots. So I is that kind of what you do, or do you even have a rhyme or reason to like if you're going to break down Oscars, try and see as much as you can? Do you wait until the nominations and go best picture? Do what do you do?
That's a great question. I don't really have like a process or like anything like that. Do you?
Yeah, I'm a big old weirdo. Uh, so this is what I do. But no, no, no. I at this point now, actually, with the advent of like podcasts and stuff, it's like really easy for me to digest a lot of stuff and like kind of figure out what things people are saying, like, hey, you should really be checking this out or not, like what is worth your time, what isn't worth your time. But I'm a big believer of if something piques your interest in any way, shape, or form, whether it's outside controversy or because you like the director or artist or whatever, go see it for yourself and make
Yeah,
your own opinion
totally.
for sure. But like for me, I try and see, I will try and see as many best pictures as I can, because I agree that if you see as many best picture nominees, you then kind of get a good spread of into other categories. There's a lot, usually there's a lot of overlap. So I try and see best picture, best animated, and best international features are
Okay.
really where I try, because again, like even with I'm Still Here, what's her name? Uh Fernanda Torres. Like that's best picture, best act or best best feature, but and best international and best actress. Like that's kind of a lot, and you also get you get an international feature out of there, knocked out. So
Admittedly, I need to be better with both of those, with animation and international. I
oh,
be better with those. I just,
this this year in animation has been one of the single best years of animated flicks coming out.
yeah, I really
Um,
Wild Robot. I admittedly didn't know anything about Flow until it started to receive all the award buzz. So it's something that I should take the time to watch.
Flow, 85 minutes. It is a natural disaster found family movie. Zero dialogue, no celebrity voices, all
Love.
emotion, all tension, and it is fucking beautifully rendered. I like, oh man, that movie, like the two best animated films, in my opinion, of this year were by far Flow and Wild Robot. I do not want to take anything away from Inside Out 2. That is a beautiful movie. It is an amazing movie talking about young teenage girls and like that panic attack being realized in real time, animated that way. Those Inside Out movies are doing more for mental health than like most people I think like really understand, in a way of like people trying to connect to like feelings and what even like triggers and stuff are. Like they don't even talk about triggers in there, but they are literally showing you what triggers are for the panic and I can't take that away in any way, shape, or form. But Flow literally is like making me have a heart attack the entire time, and Wild Robot makes me cry. Like
I think
I
made me cry
five
alone.
5 minutes into that movie, and I'm crying
Yeah.
for the next. I think that movie runs an hour and maybe 41 minutes, and I want to say for about an hour and 35 of it, I am bawling like a baby. I cannot rationalize, like that's why Flow and Wild Robot are my two favorite. Like
Mhm.
Flow is my favorite of them, but there's no denying that me being a father makes the experience of Wild Robot so much different. And like, my wife was like, "Oh, it's such a mom movie." I was like, "It is. It is because Lupita Nyong'o is a woman and she has a female voice, and like all of that is there." I was like, "Yes, it's a mom thing." But let me tell you, do not take this movie away from me. It is a parent movie. I was like, I like I am claiming this as a dad as well, for dads as well. Not I'm not trying to take it away from moms at all, but my
But also, let's not label this, right? Like,
that
I
that
lots
movie
of
is
mothers take on father, like, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking, but like stereotypical fatherly jobs or
yep.
male dominated jobs, and father's the same. Like, if you're a single father raising a child, like, so let's not label it. Let's not.
It's and that's why I'm like it's a beautiful parent movie, or like guardian movie, whatever. But like I can't rationally talk about that movie in terms with Flow, without like I am so biased in Wild Robot by being a parent that there's that like that movie's right there. But when I every time I watch Flow, I'm like, fuck, I love this movie too. And I think because I'm trying to separate like I mean, it's weird to say that I'm trying to separate the emotion from the movies when that's why, like, I'm sure part of the reason why these things are getting nominated because they make people feel. And like, I don't know, for the most part I feel like I'm kind of dead inside most of the time. So like when something really sparks an emotion from me, I cherish that.
Yeah.
Um and so my daughter loved Wild Robot as well. My wife loved it. My daughter was actually scared of Flow. Like we watched like the first 30 minutes. It's only 85, so we watched a good portion of it. And then she was like, "Dada, we got to turn this off. I'm scared. I scared." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But it's true because like they're like care for these animals in Flow. You care for this cat and this capybara and this lemur and this bird thing that could be a phoenix. You don't really know, but it's beautiful.
It's
Um,
wild how animals are able to just strike emotions, especially in animation. What is that movie? Fantastic Beasts in the second one. There's like this little fantasy creature that gets killed, and I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm like, A, this isn't even a real creature. B, it's CGI. Like, what am I crying for? But it's like animals have a way of bringing out that emotion in us because we don't deserve them. I believe humans don't deserve animals.
yeah, they are wonderful little creatures. And so that is my state. And then to just file out the rest of the animated features, Wallace and Gromit, A Vengeance Most Foul. I'm sorry if you don't like Wallace and Gromit movies. Like I don't know what to tell you.
The Person
They're
to Wear Rabbit is one of the best animated movies of all time. I love that movie.
thank you. So for me, it is great. I love it. Give me more Aardman Studios. Give me more Wallace and Gromit. I love those movies. I love to see it there, but I like to see it there. Like compared to what I would easily call Flow and Wild Robot, the top two. I'm gonna give the edge to Flow, but like I actually said this in like a family group message. I was like, everyone needs to watch Flow and Wild Robot, and they were like, okay, easy here. And I was like, no, 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 like really, like they're the two best. And if Wild Robot wins over Flow, I'm fine with that. Like I won't riot, but I swear to God, if Inside Out 2, if Memoir of a Snail, or if Wallace and Gromit win over Flow or Wild Robot, I riot. I riot in the streets.
Too, where we have to acknowledge that even though Inside Out 2 was fantastic, do they have somewhat of an unfair advantage because it's a Disney movie and they have obviously much larger budgets?
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone knows what it is, so it's like people are like expecting it to win or maybe not. I don't know.
It's still like even so something else that we did. We joined that little ESPN fantasy for the Oscars, which I appreciate you joining with all of us. And so like in that, like they give you percentages of who's like either I forget if it's voting or who's like being favorited at that point. Inside Out 2 is still the favorite to win in that app. But here's the thing. That app is also ESPN, which Disney owns just like Pixar. So like I don't know if they're just fudging the numbers a little bit. But either way, like that, I mean, make your own picks, obviously. But because I have Flow in there as my favorite. But Wild Robot could easily win. Inside Out 2 could win, and like I won't like really riot. I'm not crazy. I'm not an insurrectionist, but like I will be. I don't want to say like disappointed, but I'll be bummed. I'll be
Mhm.
bummed if Inside Out 2 wins or Memoir of a. I haven't seen Memoir of a Snail, so I shouldn't talk about it in any way, shape, or form because that is the only animated movie that I haven't seen. But it's claymation movie, and give me more claymation movies. I love that old school stuff of claymation and like the Rankin and Bass. They called it Annie Magic. With their old like little toys and like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all that kind of stuff. So I just love that stuff. I love it. It's amazing. Um, I guess let's see. Do you have anything shocking now for nominations of the Oscars this year so far? I know we kind of talked about I feel like we've talked about Amelia Perez enough, unless you have anything else to kind of say as like a shocking nomination because like the editing, the choreography, or the cinematography, that all makes sense. The below the line stuff for me, the best original songs, that those all make sense that they got. The only question I ever really had was the switching of Zoe and Carla,
Yeah.
basically there, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Sophia, sorry.
Well, I was a
Um,
little shocked that there were two Amelia Perez songs nominated.
that's
As
fair,
there is Miley Cyrus in this because I thought that was such a beautiful song, but I guess I don't make the rules.
right? Now Miley Cyrus' song that was that in Last Showgirl
Yes.
or okay?
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that would be. I agree. Like, why do we got two from the same? That's always kind of bugged me, and it happens sometimes with original song, especially when a musical is out there. You know,
Mhm.
like if somebody's doing a musical or anything kind of musically based, there's always usually a song or two that are written for it.
Was Wicked?
Wicked is nominated for best original song. No, it is not. It is nominated for best original score. It doesn't because there's one original song that they wrote for the movie. Is that in part two though, or is that in part one for Wicked?
Part two. So all
Okay,
the songs in part one were from the play.
yeah, we're from the original musical itself. Okay,
Yeah.
so then that may get a nomination next year because that comes out next fall, right? Next November, I think, or whatever. Nice. Oh wow, or 9 months away. But so the music was great. I agree. Amelia Perez probably shouldn't have gotten two of them. If I haven't again, I haven't seen Last Showgirl, so I would say like, yeah, let's just slide in Miley there. I would keep El Mal of
Mhm.
the two Amelia Perez in there. Like I think the other one is Mi Camino,
That's the
which
karaoke song.
oh, that's an odd choice to have in there. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
that,
I don't
that's
know.
a
I don't know. Maybe there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about.
I so to be fair, Amelia Perez internationally is a huge hit.
Yeah.
I mean, in Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, arguably one of the biggest international film festivals. I know you know what it is. It won the Palme d'Or. All of the female actresses won Best Actress, like Zoe, Selena, Sophia, and was there anybody else? No, it's just those three. I think are considered more so in there or as like the leads or whatever, or even co-leads. But they all won that, and so it it's been on the international circuit. People kind of love it, except for the people from Mexico. They
Mhm.
hate it. They have found it to be kind of offensive as a representation of them. But like it's one of those things. It's a French filmmaker making a movie about Mexican like Latin America drug
Yeah.
cartels and putting a musical spin based off an opera from it. Because yeah, it's originally an opera too. So like, I don't even know. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
There's,
mean, I'll preface this by saying, like, I obviously recognize my privilege as a white person, but also this movie was never meant to be a documentary or based on a true story. So it's kind of just like an artistic expression. So although their criticisms, I believe, are valid and we can make space for them, I think people are just being a little too harsh.
that's fair. That's fair. One thing though from documentary that I wish would have been included that did make the short list but didn't ultimately make the final list is Will and Harper. Um,
I never got around to watching it, but it's been on my list for quite some time. So maybe I'll watch that tonight.
it is on Netflix. It is just under 2 hours. It is about Will Ferrell and his longtime friend Harper Steele and her whole transitioning and coming out and like all of that. And the premise of it is they go on a road trip and they like it's a little bit like two-handed. Like Will Ferrell wants to know like are there rules to this? Like can I still make the same like, jokes that we were making before? I understand like in Will Ferrell's like I understand the pronoun like you are now she her like I understand that but like, can I make the same, like, if we told, like dirty jokes to each other, can I still do that? Like, where does that change? What changes other than the pronouns and like your outward and like how you are now presenting yourself? Like, and it's so there's questions like that, but there's also things that like Harper's like, I appreciate you wanting to do this and like having this conversation and doing this road trip and being like, let's document it so that this experience is out there for people to understand a little bit. And for me, like it, I saw my friendship with Jeff, like me being Will Ferrell and Jeff being Harper. That like that's what that is right there. Of like and like that was part of like what we were talking about like when we were all together like a couple of weeks ago. It's like, like like Jeff, I always saw you like kind of doing this or that. And so like I kind of didn't know like how do I address that? Like cuz I want to support you. I want to support her in all that she does and everything that she does. She's my friend. She's one of my oldest friends. And so like I appreciated that too because I kept saying dude all night, and at one point Jeff was like, it's fine, it's fine, but like I know Jeff and I for years have made the joke of from Good Burger. I'm a dude, she's a dude,
I mean,
you're a
I use
dude.
it all the time. I use bro all the time. Like, I think, those kind of things are just kind of terms of endearment versus someone's pronouns, is a little
Right.
bit different. Um, I didn't watch it, but I do absolutely love the fact that something like that is out there because it just goes to show that people can and should be willing to learn. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that are not. And that's exactly why a lot of the bullshit that's happening today is even allowed to be happening. It's like it's disgusting and it makes me sad. But I think that kind of brings back to the original statement I made about Amelia Perez is I don't think the world is ready to have those conversations, which makes
Right.
me extremely sad, but it's still good to see that a lot more is coming up.
Right. And that's like that was even something that I said in like kind of like the notes here. I was like, there was a lot of movies here that are talking about transition, whether it be, gender identity or power or sex or whatever. There is so much of that in all of these movies. I mean, we're talking top to bottom from like best picture, actors, everything in there. And I was like, I mean, I put it in our notes. I was like, I think it's kind of like almost an unsaid theme of this year's Oscars in that, and I don't know if I'm the only one to think about that. I doubt it. I mean, like I've never been like on the cutting edge of things. I'm just kind of a guy who watches movies and reads comics, and I'm like, hey, I think something's happening here. Like
There's a shift for sure.
like I'm seeing some tea leaves, and you're right. Like we need more of this, and so this expansion that we are getting, even though slow and still pretty narrow, is better than going backwards, which I have a fear of. And so got to get that stuff out there. That people need to be able to create. We need to be able to hear stories from women, made
Yes.
from women,
Yes.
based on women. We need to hear minority voices out there, like the people. We need the full picture. You know,
Yes.
not no half measures. I'm like that's a line from Breaking Bad, and like I understand that there could be some nuance with being like you're quoting Walter White, dude. But he's right. The statement's right. No half measures. Like don't do it half ass. Like let's do it. Um, so and like again, to defend Amelia Perez, they do it. They
Yeah.
they went out there and they did their thing. Now I am wherever you land on that is up to you or whatever. We have said our piece on that. We don't need to talk anymore about that. But I do agree that I like that it's there. I wish Will and Harper would have been there because I think it's an important piece to have out there. Um, and I don't know. That's yeah. Watch Will and Harper. Let me know what you think about it.
I think I'm
Um,
Watch it tonight.
Definitely. Now, shocking nominations.
Hmm.
Something that I loved, Wild Robot for sound and score. Now, you said you saw Wild Robot, correct?
I did not see Wild Robot, unfortunately. No,
Okay.
I want to.
It if you have Peacock, it's on there.
I don't.
Okay. I didn't know if that's how you watch Conclave, because Conclave is
I
also
did
on
when I
Peacock.
was at a friend's house.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I need to go back over to my friend's house and watch Wild Robot.
Yes. Do double feature. Run Wild Robot, cry, take 10 minutes, and then watch Conclave and be like, yeah, get
It's
back. I mean, like, that sounds like I'm talking down on Wild Robot. Wild Robot is one of the animation wise, like, aside, like, Flow is beautifully animated, but it's not a clean, pristine kind
yeah.
of animation that you're used to from like Pixar and like now new Disney or whatever. It has like this rough hand kind of doneness, whereas something that I haven't seen done in the Wild Robot in animation is, spoilers, the robot is wild in the forest. And as the robot and as life lives on more in the forest, you see the animation turn a little bit harder and rougher and wilder, if you will. And that is something that I was just like, what? Like, I didn't. Why weren't people doing this before? Oh, because nobody had the right story to tell it that made it make sense. That, animation, beautiful, beautiful medium. I love it so much. Um, so Wild Robot getting sound and score is something that I love. I don't know why, like things like editing, sound, score, or cinematography, or things like that, because like you're literally drawing the way that things are going. How can an animated film not be nominated for that kind of stuff? Um, Flow, again, sticking with animation, getting both international and animated is wild to me. And I already talked about Alien Romulus for me, like getting best visual effect and like staying there, because I would have guessed sound, visual effects, and maybe editing or something, maybe some production design, because there's like real sets and stuff in there, kind of like Wicked and whatnot. So I would have thought that it could have gotten in some of those below the line stuff. But how about yourself? Was there any movie that got an additional nomination, that, or anything like that you were like, whoa, or just straight up a movie that you saw that you're like, I don't know if you deserve that nomination?
Again, I feel like I have a lot of hot takes this year, but Dune 2 was snore. Snore. And I have a friend who's like read all the books, and she was like, people who are huge like book fans loved these movies. And so I can empathize with that. I enjoyed the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watched the second one, I was like falling asleep. Kind of like when Nikki Glazer made fun of it and was like, "Oh, I woke up for all of your scenes, Zendaya," but like I do see it winning for things like sound or visual effects though, because it was beautiful. It was almost seamless.
Yeah.
So I do understand those things, but like I just I didn't think Austin Butler was that good in it. Everyone was like, "Oh,
Oh,
he was amazing," and he's like bald, and I was just like, I couldn't take him seriously with his weird accent, and like it just didn't sell me.
I'm not gonna lie, it's the first time I've liked Austin Butler since like his turn in like I thought his Elvis was fine. I thought that whole movie was fine. Um but like I really liked him. I thought he was really creepy. I thought he was really creepy.
Then he opened his mouth and started talking, and I was like, I literally sent a Snapchat to my sister and was like, "Am I supposed to take this seriously?" I was like laughing.
That's awesome. See, this is why I invited you on, because despite us talking and agreeing that some movies have been like great, we love seeing them there. There is still something where like I do agree that Dune Part 2 was less interesting for me. Now, the only thing I will say in defense of it, my buddy Matt, who I talked about earlier at the top of the pod, he was like, in March of like almost a year ago, was like, see it in a theater, the big screen with the loud sound. If you don't, you are cheating yourself.
Um,
And I literally watched Dune Part 2 over the last 3 days at home on my TV. and I was pretty underwhelmed by it too.
Yeah.
I thought visually, like all the ships and the explosions and stuff in it were great.
Yeah.
I did like Austin Butler, but that's okay. You didn't like him. That's fine. Um, but otherwise, like I actually don't like Timothy in it. Like I don't like Chalamet in it. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I think Zendaya had way more to do in the first movie than in this one. I like that they eventually get us Florence Pugh's character because she in the book is narrating it from like page one, doing all those little voice recording kind of things. So so that makes a little bit more sense when you see that. So it was nice to get it. It is by far, especially if you've seen David Lynch's Dune, which is like a 2.5 hour takes both of those movies, part one and two, that Denis Villeneuve did, shrinks it down to 2.5 hours. And like that's it's done in the 80s. I love David Lynch, but it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. David
Mm-mm.
Lynch's Dune is fine.
Yeah.
Um, so that yeah. But again, the sound, the editing, the cinematography, visual effects, it deserves all of those accolades because they are really good. They
I
are
agree.
really good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Dune Part Two didn't really do it for me. I'm still shocked that like not more people are talking about Conclave because I 100% agree that that is the most underrated movie of this year and more people need to see it. But I almost wonder with just like in today's climate if people are like what we talked about
Mhm.
religion,
Yeah.
Catholic Church, electing a pope.
Mhm.
Ugh,
I know, boring, but they whoever wrote the book, because it's a novel,
yeah,
obviously made it interesting. Like I said, it was like a religious Mean Girls. There's like cardinal
it,
cliques and secrets and
the Mean Girls connection is fascinating to me, and I love that you keep nailing that home because it's something that I wouldn't have said ever before. My comparing of Conclave would be people talking in rooms, so like 12 Angry Men, Glenn
yeah.
Gary, Glenn Ross, these dudes in rooms talking and like trying to figure things out and all of that. And like, then you've also got the little like sabotaginess going on between people. Who's working, who's doing what. And like, then you get Father, is it Beniti, maybe? Who's the last cardinal to come in and
Mhm.
like
Yes.
starts like slowly
Like
but
what is
surely.
what's this guy's secret? Because they all have secrets, and they're
Yeah,
like, it's so
everyone's got
good.
everyone's got a closet, and there's
Yeah,
a skeleton in everyone. And
it was so good.
I I actually will say this: if Conclave does not win Best Adapted Screenplay, I will be mad because
Yeah,
that script is awesome.
it was.
I really like Ray. I really like Ray Fiennes after it as well. Watching it, like he's kind of moved to the top. I might have a controversial take here, a hot take of some performances for the Brutalist.
Okay, so I
Brutalist,
haven't seen it, so I won't be able to add in any.
right? But I still love so where Becky and I are from in Chicago here, everybody listening and tuning in, we have this wonderful theater, Music Box Theater, up on the north side of Chicago. Had terrible seats for many years, no cup holders or anything in them, and the cushions were like rocks. I can say that I did see the one thing that I love about Music Box is that they do really odd things there. They really program great stuff. And one of the things that they've done recently is get a 70 millimeter camera. So, like I heard everything about the Brutalist. It's like everybody was like, if you see it in the theater, try and see it in 70 millimeter. That's the way that Bradley Corbett's maybe. I don't exactly know his last name. But the writer director along who co-wrote it with his wife actually. That like so him and so like the Felicity Jones stuff. She gives a great performance, nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Her stuff is very subtle and it's really good, and I appreciate her performance a lot. But her and if I found out after the fact, her and Adrian Brody, there's a little bit of AI ness used to their voices. to change their voice a little bit to sound it more Hungarian like. And the director, yeah, yeah. The director was like, we did this just slightly in post production so that even people who are from Hungary didn't know the difference of like couldn't tell that these were people giving like a performance with an accent and stuff.
Interesting.
So
Maybe they should have
I'm
done it in Perez because
so like that's like it's one of those things for me in a lot of my friend circles. I'm kind of on an island of being like AI needs to get the F out of creativeness, out of movies, out of art. I hate it.
some aspects it's so cool though, like in Fast and the Furious, where they were able to kind of morph Paul Walker's brother's face onto Paul Walker's like body to kind of create or finish the movie after the fact. But I get
So
where you're coming from.
so that facial recognition stuff is actually CGI. Not, I mean, they could have used AI for it at the time, but usually you can do that. The de-aging of stuff and like facial put on. It's usually you just put some dots on people, and depending on who the person is, like it's a lot easier to do with people who are older now at this point. Like Paul Walker, there's a lot of footage of him from those Fast movies, so they could have easily have done that. I'm sure there's plenty of B-roll and everything for the years of that franchise going on. But somebody like Patrick Stewart in X-Men 3, there was 60 years before he did that movie and before they had to de-age him 20 years. So it's easier to kind of do it with people depending on footage and how many years. That's part of the thing with what Robert Zemeckis did with the movie here with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, the reunion of Forrest Gump, is that they do a lot of de-aging in that. And when you have somebody like those two who have been in so much, you can take old footage and kind of rework it in that CGI. You're right; it could be done via AI and whatnot on that. But I bring up the AI thing because the Academy seems to be changing that for things like the Brutalist, doing
Mhm.
that little bit of AI. Seems that they'll have to notify the Academy and whatnot about AI usage for this.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
so we might see a change in that. And so I saw The Brutalist, and some of the single greatest things about The Brutalist are those performances. Like Adrian Brody is lights out. But now that I hear that thing about that, it's literally gnawing in the back of my head, and I'm like, I just praised the writing for it and Felicity Jones's character, who you really don't see until like the second half. Really, so she gives like so she's totally a supporting character. There's no denying that. I don't think there's any category fraud. Adrian Brody absolutely deserves the lead actor. Again, no category fraud. Guy Pearce is good. He is. He's dirty. He's a dirty evil man in it, and ugh, like
So
you
how is
really.
it stacked up against Kieran? Do you think Kieran will take it?
So if anybody dethrones Kieran, it's going to be Edward Norton.
Okay.
Edward Norton gives one of the most honest performances I've ever seen in a
Really?
complete unknown. He's like I haven't felt like anything emotionally from Edward Norton since like Primal Fear, maybe American History X. Um it like I was just like, wow, you as Pete Seeger, man, you're good. It like it's good. It's a good performance. So and the Academy has this thing of people who have been nominated a whole bunch, haven't won, but have a really great supporting role, tend to slide right on in and win.
Yeah.
So as as much as I like I mean really another Honora, the Euro Broski, he gives a sneakily amazing performance as well in Honora. Like there are probably more cutaway reactions to him than I've ever seen in any other kind of movie. And it's because this guy, I guess, is like an Oscar lead man in Russia as a Russian performer, and like when you see him in this, you're like, oh no, this guy's cooking with something. He's got something. So I like him there. But Kiernan and Edward Norton and Guy Pearce, I think Kiernan's still the lead. Like I really do. Because like I don't know, I just that might be a little bit too personal because I really feel a lot of myself in that. Guy Pearce, if he gets it, and I think he's truly a true third. And Edward Norton might be second, but like I don't know. It's a great question. I
And
think if I no, I'm sticking with it. If anyone were to upset Kiernan, it's going to be Edward Norton, and it's going to be a twofer. It's going to be a great performance, but it's also going to be a lifetime kind of thing of being like you've been doling it out for like 30 plus years of like killing it. It's about time we recognize you. Um, but at the same time, Kiernan's hot, man. Everybody loves him. He just won for Succession and stuff. So
it'll be like a sweep too. He just won the Critics' Choice. He did win the Golden Globe. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'll be tough to bat him down, knock him down a peg or two. Um, so this was, I think we did a pretty good job of like jumping into here for this first like go around here. How do you feel? Do you have any other lingering takes, whether they be hot or cold? Or anything else that should be torn down, lifted up, anything like that before we take off here.
just two random thoughts in my head. I was a little shocked that juror number two got zero award um
Mm-hmm.
attention at all. I thought that was such a wonderful movie. Again, stacked cast. And also I was a little sad to see that Hugh Grant didn't get more attention for his role in Heretic. But
Okay.
that brings us back to the conversation about horror films not being
Right.
taken. But he was did you see Heretic?
Yeah. It's really good. I have a little, it's like two-thirds, maybe 75%, like a really great movie. There's a little bit of stuff at like in that third act that I'm like, mm,
I love how it ended though, because it kind of left us open to interpret it.
that's fair. Yeah.
Like, that was the whole point of the movie and how
Hmm.
religion is open to interpretation because no one truly knows, right? So
That's fair.
I loved it. I love Hugh Grant in his villain era. I love it.
Oh, right. It like him being like the spiciest like takedown on social media and stuff of people is like really funny. I love it. I love it. I mean, he's kind of always never really had a filter, but like
Yeah.
now he's in his like old curmudgeon, old man kind of like era, and he's just like, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah. Like no more silly like British rom-coms. Like let's
Yeah.
the bad guy now. Like his role in what was that show with Nicole Kidman? God, where
I'm
he
not
it's like
sure.
their husband and wife, and then oh, I'll find the name of it and I'll send it to you. He was so good. I was a little nervous. I was like, Hugh Grant, like as the villain, this is interesting, but no, I love it for him.
Yeah. He's rocking and rolling it. Yeah. I so tonight actually in a little bit I'm seeing the new movie Presence, Steven Soderbergh's movie from the shot from the POV of a ghost. Literally in the
Yeah.
yes, I'm seeing that. And I'm so stoked because I literally saw the trailer and I just saw the camera move like this and the people in front of it like just going about their day and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a movie from the POV of a ghost and it's Steven Soderbergh, like everything from Aaron Brockovich to Oceans to like the dude's a genius. He's a huge in the like filmmaking behind the scenes kind of thing. He's a huge inspiration to me because he writes, he directs, he edits his own stuff, and he's usually the cinematography. He'll usually do like a pseudonym kind of name for an editor and for a cinematographer, but like even that first Oceans movie, he's not credited. He took one of his pseudonyms because he was like, I'm just trying to have fun with with like a rompy kind of like movie here. But like if people destroy this, I don't want it ruining my career because like nobody knew if that movie was gonna work. And then
Yeah.
we got three of them, and then we got Oceans 8.
Yeah.
And the right that's the old female redone of it, right? Yeah.
Always with eight. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do all kinds of fun stuff. And so like I'm really excited for him to do this. I think it's actually going to be one of two movies he has releasing this year. I think Presence is that horror one. Obviously, it just got released in January, so it's almost out of theaters now. But I think he has another one coming down the pipe in like September or October. That's definitely supposed to be like more of an awardsy kind of thing, more prestigious, if you will. So I'm very excited for that. I'm seeing I'm Still Here, the Fernanda Torres movie on Sunday. I'll let you know how that is because I'm excited. I do like to try and see pictures and performances. I talked about international features. I do try and see as much as I can. I'm very lucky my wife lets me. I shouldn't say lets me, but like I find the right times to go. Like when it's not time to split parenting duty or when she needs a break or something. I'm not being like, okay, bye, see ya.
Important to stay connected to our passions, right?
Yeah, exactly. But Becky, I want to thank you for joining me today. This has been a blast. We are hopefully going to be able to do one more, possibly before the Oscars. We will definitely do one after the Oscars to see how like some of our predictions and stuff that we talked about went. Um, so with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. I am JimmE with the Triple C Collective. This is
Becky.
and I want to thank you, Becky, for joining me. And I want to thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe to our video and to our channel. And as always, I hope you all stay safe and see you at the movies.